Paul was one of the best bosses I ever had the pleasure of working with. As he was about to leave the office for the last time, he put his hand on my shoulders as he stopped into my office and shared words of wisdom that I still think about to this day on a regular basis. What did he say? That's what we're going to cover today when we talk about the principle of being virtuous in business as leaders. Here at the Boss Beat, welcome to another episode where we help serve up a latte of leadership to all those seeking to be or build better bosses in business. And yes, I am Ben and I do like my bees. Back to Paul. The environment at this organization was very toxic. There was dirty politics, backstabbing, and CYA activities that seemed to not only be regular occurrences, but they seemed to be the only occurrences. But there were a few bright spots, and Paul was one of them. Paul joined the organization slightly after I did. I could tell quickly that he and I saw eye to eye and held similar virtues. Namely, we both believed in our role as people leaders to lift others up and grow the organization through servant leadership practices. But it would not be easy in that organization. We would end up commiserating many times with each other over the years about the challenges that we faced to do the right thing. One day, I learned that he was leaving for a chief executive role at another organization. Before he left that day, he stopped in my office, put his hand on my shoulder as I mentioned, and said, "Ben, don't ever let them change you." The toxic culture of that organization changed a lot of good people for the worse. It easily could have done the same for me. But every time I felt that temptation to adopt the toxic behaviors that were so prevalent in the organization, I heard Paul's words echo in my head. Don't ever let them change you. Paul's virtuous behavior shone through and encouraged others to do the same. He exemplified virtuousness as a better boss in business. What are the attributes of virtuousness that you can adopt in your role in your business? Each time on Boss Beat, when we cover one of the principles, we talk about 3 attributes of that principle. Today, we're going to talk first about serving a higher purpose. Now, I happen to be a follower of Jesus Christ. If you've been following along on Boss Beat, you know this. But you may be Jewish or Muslim, atheist or agnostic. You don't have to follow any particular religion. You do, however, have to serve a higher purpose than self to be the best boss you can be. Now, I don't know Paul's religious beliefs, for example, but I knew that he served a higher purpose. I knew that it wasn't all about him and his title or his money. He felt a calling to do something better than just improve his own appearance or his own existence. Second, an attribute for virtuousness is character. Put yourself in the shoes of those you serve. Would you follow yourself based on your character? Do you typically enjoy following somebody who has a lowly character or who isn't the most virtuous person? My guess is no. Some people, yes, but most people would prefer to follow a person of strong character. Make sure you practice strong character. And the last attribute is trust. Your team needs to be confident that you're not going to waffle every time the wind blows. They need to know that you're not going to be the one to cow to the toxic behaviors all of a sudden one day. They need to trust that you will stand by your decisions. Now, as we look to build better boss behaviors in ourselves and in our organization, let's look at Brené Brown, a fantastic author and speaker. You're probably familiar with her work. I like what she says about being virtuous. She says simply, "What we know matters, but who we are matters more." That brings us to 2 questions to ask ourselves for today. First, how might the culture at your organization change you or others in it? If we address that, if we recognize the reality that the culture might be changing our behaviors or changing us, we can put up our guard against it. Or if it's changing us for the better, all the better. The second question is, do you know who you are? Now, we like to be practical and actionable here, and I'll be the first to admit that question sounds a bit philosophical. But it's important that you know what you stand for, right? Alexander Hamilton had that great quote, if you don't stand for anything, I goofed it up. If you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything, or something along those lines. And I apologize. I'll probably have to put the correct quote in the comments below. But the point is, knowing who you are matters. If you don't know who you are and what you stand for, it'll be way too easy for you to bend to the wills of a toxic environment or bad leader in the future. So make sure you know who you are and what you stand for. This has been another episode of Boss Beat. As you know, each time we have one of these episodes, we cover one of the 7 core principles of great leadership that are populating on your screen now. We follow the acronym model of servant leadership. Why? Because we don't want you to just take my word for it. This is based on over 2 decades of study of the greatest leadership experts, authors, and practitioners, great leaders from past and even great leaders from modern business today. We do that to make sure that you know that what you're getting is actionable and practical. I'm Ben Lichtenwallner. If you enjoyed this content, please remember that there is a lot of free content on modernservantleader.com, as well as links to some of the courses I teach with a very similar philosophy here on being practical and actionable based on decades of research. Until next time, my friends, thank you and keep serving.